Hey folks, this is Brian. We got to play RQG last night. Well, sort of. The session was a lot of administrative stuff going on. The live play is in the description, but there's a whole lot of stuff that I didn't record. So the live play is only like less than 2 hours long, and took a while to get started because a couple of our players didn't come in on time. But so we waited a bit for them, and I said, hey, a lot of stuff is, end of season phase stuff and stuff that we can do individually offline if we can do kind of thing. So we went ahead and started running with it. And that's the end of season phase is most of the stuff that I just cut out. Don't need to run through that stuff again. We've all done that. We did end the session. Began the session with a slight review or a quick review of the previous session. Everybody's back to clear wine. The ransom has arrived. Lars got to do his holy day worship for Lancre Mai on the last day of the month or the season. And then there's a whole bunch of discussion, not on the live play, but we did, about the distribution of the ransom stuff. And maybe I'm an old curmudgeon, probably, but if you've been given stuff for ransom, horse, armor, weapons, that kind of stuff, you've got the stuff. Now, if you want to sell it, it's not worth the same amount as it was given to you as, right? So, for example, the scale hopper, 65 lunars is what it's worth, right? So it's 65 lunars of the 1,000 whatever that the 1,500 I think was, that the actual ransom was, is this hopper. But if you're going to try and just sell it here, I just did a standard markdown of 10% just to make it easy. Could have been a little rough on that. I need to maybe do some investigation on resale values. I don't know. But anyway, so that's what I did. So they wanted to cash out the stuff that people didn't want. Okay, just decreases the total amount of that was given for the ransom. No problem. Ingvar wanted the cavalry trained horse, so he's got a cavalry trained horse now, in addition to his other two mounts. But nobody wanted any of the armor, and there weren't any weapons. So they cashed out all the armor. Well, there's so much cash. They cashed out the armor. And it all added to like 700 lunars, divided between all of them. But they had to subtract out the 150 for the horse from Ingvar. So it became a big math problem, which you don't necessarily want in the game. But maybe it's some of the believability that I try to use in my game. So after they do that, they'll just start discussing, the cattle, the cows and the sheep. What are they going to do with those? And of course, well, not of course, but I happen to know that Vaskandor, who's a noble, so he's got land and cattle already, and he likes buying cattle to keep increasing his herd. He wants cattle. But Lars also popped up. Hey, we can put our own cattle in the clan lands. That's not an issue. So I want cattle too. But we decided for poor the hunter, Subutai. For Subutai, he's a hunter. He doesn't really have lands. He's kind of a roamy guy. He won't want that kind of stuff. And a restaurant didn't want it either. So Divya had all the cattle, and then the players bought the cattle from Arestra and Subutai, so they got cash equivalents at full value. Now, if they're going to, I put out for them, hey, if you're going to sell stuff, there's going to be a discount. But if you're going to donate it, sacrifice, well, you could sacrifice worship stuff, but donate is not quite the right word. But give it to the temple for payment. I want the temple to teach me X, Y, and Z. It's going to cost you so much. Okay, here's 3 cows. You know, that kind of thing. Straight cost conversion for that. No issues. But they did not end up doing any of that. And then there's the whole, you can put some of this stuff in your temple as part of your ransom, so when the time comes that you actually do get ransomed, you've already got stuff there to do for ransom instead of having to pay the cult back. You know, I try to put that across, but no, we want to do that. So they cash out and take cattle. We finally get it all figured out and distribute it out. Lars did his deal. Oh, fire season. And so we start fire season. And I'm trying to parallel or follow along with canon, right? So the Battle of Five Queens canonically happened in 1626 fire season, but we had already passed 1626 of fire season of 1626 when I realized the Battle of Five Queens was supposed to be that season. So I just pushed it a year back. It took longer for the Lunars to, you know, they're too busy fighting off those Penton, right? Nomads were invading, so they pulled some forces south, plus everything here died out, and so there's this transition period of, you know, what do we do, who's going on, before, hey, okay, we got to go back down there and stomp some of this out. So I just, you know, postponed it a year. So fire season, and there's a couple of, I pulled a bunch of stuff from the RQG book with the Cavalry Bison, Vatfi, from the descriptions of things throughout the book. I pulled a bunch of that because she does some stuff through the whole Battle of Five Queens and afterwards. Plus, there's a guy online. Sorry, I forgot your name and didn't write it down with my copy. I pulled a bunch of stuff where he ran the Battle of Five Queens and stuff after that as well. Just to get, you know, some flavor and some dates and that kind of stuff. So I even went through and started figuring out. Oh, wait a minute. So Prince Kalir Starbrow gives word that lunar Tarshites are coming down from Aldachur. So she's organizing an army. The Kalimar, the Milani, and 2 other tribes, remember them, come to the call. And Queen Laika is raising her army. So she pulls, you know, the guys join everybody wants to be, you know, be in the fights. They all come to the army, which was on, they start coming together on Freeze Day of Stasis Week, gathering together at Clearwine, moving north. Prince Kalir, actually probably came from the south as well, up past Roomgate into Old Top, and they start setting up. Everybody's moving in, you know, all this administrative sort of, you know, army building stuff going on. And then at dawn on God Day of Movement Week, is it Vizier that's leading them? They come across the creek. Now, Old Top, the creek, and then there's the Two Sisters with a bridge. So militarily, I'm going to, if I'm the Lunar Tarshites, I'm going to seize both of those cities. So I've got that bridge. Are there ways to ford across the creek between 2 cities and further northeast-ish? Probably. So I'll be sending some guys to help spread out the line. Otherwise, Kalir just needs to seize the Two Sisters, and that would keep the Lunar Tarshites from even crossing the creek, right? But, you know, it is what it is. So, Lunar Tarshites seize the city so they can bring people across. The Kalimar tribe is to the west of the line. And then Kalir's up on the hill, right? So, I want to make it more than just, okay, the battle, we won, make your battle rolls, right? So somewhere online, somebody had suggested using the battle rules for Bushido. And back in the day, I played Bushido, and my buddy Ed had the book, so he made me a couple copies of those pages. But it's kind of convoluted because they have levels in Bushido, and they use own in Bushido, and on top of experience, and they've got like 30 hit points, and I'm looking at the results of the character and battle table, going, okay, how can I make this apply? And the first thing I thought of was, okay, if we're doing a D3 and a D6 worth of damage during each battle turn, that could kill one of my PCs. And I don't want that to happen. So I instead of a D3, I made it 1 point. Instead of a D6, I made it 2 points. But as we played through it, a couple of them took maybe 3 points total. So next time I do the battle stuff, I'm going back to the D3 and D6 because just you don't take damage as much as I was afraid they might have, just statistically on the table. And there's this head count. No, we're not really counting heads, but there's a mechanic for getting own, which all ties into the whole recognition thing, which I tried to tie into the battle skill roll at the end, which we'll do. So in Bushido, they use Japanese hours, which are 2 hours long or something like that. And it starts with the day, hour of the monkey, and ends at certain, weird stuff, right? But we know the battle began at dawn. In the Bushido, there's a preparation phase for combat, which is 0 to 2 turns. So I built a little spreadsheet. I've got dawn every 2 hours to dusk. And at noon, we know what happens at noon. The lunars appear behind Kalir's line and start wreaking havoc. I'm assuming with spirits and demons and stuff. And so there's just pincer movement. So there are different categories of how the battle is going. You can be victorious, or you can be winning, or it could be deadlocked, or you could be losing, or you could, actually be defeated. And so in the mornings, it's all kind of touch and go. I did deadlock for all the morning stuff. And then at noonish, well, it's 11:45 according to my calculations, because dawn on the summer solstice, which is at 05, is Fire Day of Harmony Week. And so by Wednesday of Stasis Week, dawn is at 5:30. And kind of about 5:45 is when dawn was on God's Day of Movement Week. So every 2 hours, 45 after the hour, an event, right? So at 11:45, we have this massive lunar attack from the rear. So I did that one as a losing phase instead of rolling. They've got mechanics in Bushido for rolling for what's going on, that kind of stuff. So I just established, deadlock in the morning, losing at noon, and then after Kalir Starbrow is killed, Queen Leika takes charge and pushes the lunar army into the creek. And so the afternoon, there's like two turns of winning, and then 1 turn of victorious. And then you roll 2d6. If you're being courageous, you get to add 2. If you're being cautious, you subtract 2. If you're being dutiful, just a normal roll. And so they rolled. And there was a handful of pretty high rolls. There was 2 14s, a 12. I think it was it. And then the rest were in the middle. And there is some low rolls, even with 2d6 coming out with like a 4, kind of thing happened. Maybe it was just a 6. I think 6 was the lowest. And so then based upon that 2d6, and most of them, in fact, Engrolar was dutiful on 2 of the turns, but with everybody, including him, was courageous the rest of the time. So, and that comes into a factor on getting recognition and this own stuff and things. So they roll to see, how many heads they got, which is, how well they did in the battle, whether or not they got wounded or injured, and whether or not they had an actual encounter or a B encounter. I don't know why they had a B added to it, but it's a enhanced encounter. Now the encounters, there's a table for this on what was the level of the person you actually fought, and then if you want to, you actually do a one-on-one duel kind of thing fight. I didn't want to mess with time and effort for that, so I just okay, you won. You had an encounter with lunar officer. We had 2 of those or 3 of those, and then an encounter with lunar Tarshites kind of thing. Personal encounter, which counts for bonus money at the end kind of deal. Okay, so that's how that table all works. So out of the table, you get wounds and injuries, you get encounters, and you get heads, which is all about getting owned. So on the recognition thing, you take your own, which is the number of heads you got, and you times that by the number of turns that you were courageous minus the number of turns that you were cautious. And the whole battle was like 5 turns long. So you multiply the number of heads by this factor, which was 5 for most everybody. It was 3 for Ingrillar, and that gives you a number. And for our group, it ranged from like 60 to 130. And then you roll percentile, and you need to roll below that number to get honors. And then whatever you roll, you divide that by 10, determine what the honors table result is, what you got from that. And so Ingrillar actually rolled higher than his number, so he didn't get honors. The other 3 did. It all turned out to be just cash stuff, extra money. Yeah, but there are things you can get, like a fine sword, better armor and that kind of stuff as well. Or a stipend, be granted land, become nobilized, that kind of thing. Okay, so they've got a number they need to beat. Most of them beat it, and then they got a result based upon how high their number was below what they needed. Kind of a Pendragon-ish effect. So we start role-playing. Queen Laika back at Clear. Well, we talk about Clear's dead. Queen Laika takes charge, gathers a body. We're making pilgrimage to Boldhome, but we stop at Clearwine to bring out the war chest and start paying off the nobles and their people, kind of thing. There are a few people individually awarded, because they've got contact with the queen and she wants to do personal stuff, and of course our group is part of that. So Ingrillar and his retinue is brought up, and they're individually awarded. You get so much silver for being in the battle, thank you. You get so much silver for all the own that you earned. Then you get bonus silver and actual bonus gold for encounters. So that was kind of interesting. Was it that interesting? Not really, but they got some extra cash, they got recognition, and I was trying to figure out, okay, so how's this whole honor own recognition stuff tie into giving you a bonus on your battle skill roll for the end of the battle, right? And at first I was thinking, well, let's just give the recognition number as a bonus. But plus 130, I don't know about that. And so I went, okay, what did you roll to make your honors? And that's your bonus. That seemed to work okay, except for the guy who rolled low. I mean, percentile roll, right? And somebody rolled a 19. That's not much of a bonus for your battle skill roll at the end. So I got to tie it back into this own stuff somehow. I'll figure that out. Because if it's the own alone, you're talking about numbers in the teens kind of stuff from our battle. And I don't think that's enough either. I did allow them to go ahead and augment. Somebody did loyalty to the Sartar. Somebody else did a 8 lunars, passion roll kind of stuff to get things up to roll for the battle skill. And while I had seen the battle results table before, as we're playing through this, I'm thinking, this is not enough. I mean, yeah, we're talking about less than a day, but you're going to be successful in all of your weapons, right? So you're going to get a check on all of your weapons. If you've got any magic, you're going to get a power check because you're going to be casting enough, demoralize and befuddle to actually overcome somebody to get a power gain check. So yeah, I feel like I need to do something with this. But anyway, most of them got special successes. Somebody got a normal success, so the battle skill check and your two best weapons. And somebody online had mentioned that they didn't want to force on the player the three best weapons. Use any weapon kind of thing. But if you're in battle, you're going to be using your best weapon because you want to die. So I have no problem with highest skill weapons, that kind of stuff. Maybe it's this 3 factor that bothered him, because obviously you're going to use your main primary weapon or 2, right? So then you get a reputation check. So everybody got D3 of reputation, except the one who got normal success. So it seems like there should be something more from this. So what I did, my ruling at the time was, okay, you get all these check marks, go ahead and roll them down. Do it now. And then, we'll do check marks at the end of season phase again. Don't worry about it. So they all did that. Then we start narrating through, okay, pilgrimage from Clearwine to Boldholm with Prince Kalir's body, right? Not the whole clan, but all the nobility and all the retinue. We're going to Boldholm. Not Yanioth. Shoot, it's going to bother me again. I don't remember her name. The vegan. What's her name? Vasana. Sorry, guys. It was driving me nuts. Sorry. So the Vasana saga throughout the book, there's a whole bunch of stuff about the Battle of Five Queens and the Boldholm stuff, and so I'm narrating off of that, right? And narrating through, they put the body in stasis or state. They put the body in state. The prince's kin are saying, give her a week to come back. And there was some discussion among the players. Can you do that? She's a hero. She can probably do that. But, we can always do a hero quest and go and find her and bring her back. But after a week, nothing. But there's arguments. In fact, they're getting fights in the streets about, whether or not to start the pyre or not. How long do we wait? Who's going to be next? That's a big thing going on as well. The next prince. And the party has had encounters with Vasana's group. Who's in charge of that one? Not Vostar. Is it Vostor? No, it's not Vostor. Harmast. So the party has had a couple of encounters with Harmast and his group. Obviously, they recognize Harmast, he being the son of the clan chieftain. But they recognize Vasana and Yanioth because they're cousins and stuff like that. So there's people, because their encounters have either been before or after they've had visits with Queen Leika on tasks that she sent them on. So she's also sending this other group onto tasks as well. And so this whole fighting back and forth about who's going to be next, and do we start the pyre or not? And the party notices Harmast and his group mounting off and taking off out of the city out to Prax. It's kind of an underlying storyline. I'm trying to use them to be some more background life in the game. And then it's like 3 weeks later, somebody starts to pyre. So okay, the morning of, we're now in Earth season, right? 3 weeks. We're in the middle of Earth season. Fire Day. I think it was Fire Day of Harmony Week is what I decided. Fire Day of Harmony Week. People are yelling in the streets, and so the party comes out and somebody's at the pyre. It's burning. That afternoon, Queen Leika packs everybody up. We're going back to Claremont. And so that's where we ended that. We pretty much ended the session at that point as well because it was getting late. And I'm not really ready for fire season yet. But so when we start next session, we need to do end of season phase for Earth season. That's all that will be pretty much. And then not Earth season, but fire season, end of season phase for fire season. And then whatever I've got set up for Earth season, which I've got to plan out. The fellow who did his description of the Battle of Five Queens sent his party on the mission from Queen Leika to check out this fellow in Pavis to see what's up with him. But with my group, it was Harmas and those guys who went that way because I'm still pushing this Stranger in Strange Land thing and the scenarios I've got running here still locally. And so something's going to happen during Earth season. Oh, but I forgot to tell the party. I'm going to have to tell them, when we do our next session, that while they were, up around the Two Sisters and the Creek and Upland Marsh and Old Top Hills, that whole area, that there's lots of word spread around about how the marsh has been expanding. It's getting bigger. There's also been, there seems to be an infestation of snakes in the Old Top Hills area, which ties into my camping. So that actually I've got some side scenarios that I think I'll throw at them before the actual chapter 3 starts. Yeah, chapter 3. Chapter 3 is one of my scenario things where I've got set up, but I've got side things I can throw at them in between in between my chapters. So it'll be chapter 2.5 kind of thing, or interlude. Actually, this is more of an interlude. This whole Battle of the Five Queens and the burning of Prince Kalir and Boldholm is all kind of an interlude between things. I kind of want to get them messing with some stuff with the Upland Marsh. Most of the layout of this campaign is in the Upland Marsh area. And I've got some side quest stuff that I can throw in that deals directly with the marsh. So I may throw that at them. I have noticed, sorry, almost a half an hour here, guys, but in my game, I'm an old school guy, so it was a lot more, fight monsters, do the adventure kind of stuff, rather than interacting with people and doing the narrative role play kind of stuff. I try to pull that in. Most of that's been dealing with Queen though, and some of her folks. And I know some of the players are trying to go that way themselves. More role play, more talking, interacting. So I'm going to try to help bolster that. That's my next goal, I guess. Anyway, happy gaming.